All right, here we go. Starting up Sansar. And apparently we can have a starting world. We don't have to go through the Nexus. This is cool. Very cool. Welcome to the Drax Files Book Club. Let me actually. Oh man, it still throws me out to the Nexus. I don't want to go through the Nexus, my friend. I hope you understand. And here we are. All right. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. And let's see if there's somebody here. Hello, hello, everybody. Can
Hello.
Okay. My mic was off because I hot plugged it. Here we go. Hello, Mayeki. We have a small turnout today, which doesn't matter because we're
I'm
here.
sorry I moved some of your books to the other chair so I could sit down on
Oh,
this chair.
yeah. No, that's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. You freed up the chair.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let me double check if we are streaming. And I'll keep an eye out on the stream because we are talking about Native American Day, which is somewhat of an attempt, not somewhat, but it's an attempt to bring attention to Native Americans rather than maybe Columbus Day, because Columbus is a controversial figure to say the least, and Columbus Day is tomorrow, and tomorrow is also Native American Day. So I'll give a quick overview of what it is, and then I prepared two really cool videos that I found. Native American stories. One Native American story, kind of a fairy tale, and the other one an origin story from the Lakotas, told by an elder. So having been in or being very involved with America by way of relation. Um, I want to say that native populations are important and they're marginalized, and nothing has changed. But Native Americans is probably an issue just because of the sheer size of the operation of the genocide, to be honest. It is up front and center. And interestingly enough, tomorrow, Waste Tide by Qiu Fan Chen will discuss the same thing with native populations on this Chinese island, which is polluted by e-waste. Um, it's a similar it's a similar topic, and that's tomorrow. But right now, it's the Drax Files Book Club, and this is what I found about Native American Day on Wikipedia, which was interesting. So it was brought to my attention, and I'm following a bunch of people on Twitter who have mentioned this. So Native American Day is a holiday celebrated across the United States in lieu of Columbus Day. And in California and Nevada, the holiday is celebrated on the fourth Friday of September, but in South Dakota and Wisconsin, it's the second Monday of October, which is tomorrow. And within these states, Native American Day honors the cultural contributions of Native American communities. Um, and what's interesting here is that even Governor Ronald Reagan, who I'm not a fan of for many reasons, and who was a hardliner against minorities in many ways, actually did sign a resolution calling for a holiday called American Indian Day. And that was passed in California in 1998, and that made Native American Day an official state holiday, like I said, in September. And so tomorrow in South Dakota, uh, this is what we're looking at today. South Dakota Native American Day is tomorrow, and tomorrow is also Columbus Day. honoring a dude who ostensibly was mm, if not the architect, the father of the extermination of an entire population by othering that population, and that's how it always works. That's how genocide works and still works. You first of all tell uh, people that the people that you want to massacre or get rid of, they're not really humans. They're all sorts of other things. So you kind of otherize them and you make them sort of less than humans, or you find, um, analogies from the animal world, like roaches, for instance, which the fascists loved that term.
Oh my
And
God.
yep. So uh, as we are, I don't want to go too much into the. I don't want to tie it too much. I actually like it. I like to tie it to the current moment. I think everything that we look at has a current moment. Right now, we are in danger of another extermination of a minority population. I'm talking about the Kurds. This is a complex
Mm,
situation, but all this stuff is related, and the common thing here is that there are people in power, and these people in power, they have a vested interest in getting rid of others that are sort of occupying the land. I was joking last time, Mayeki, with our friend Laban. I said
mm,
Lebensraum. That's of course a term also that then was used by the Nazis to say, we need Lebensraum im Osten,
mm,
which said, the East, we just, our population is expanding and we're important, so we need to kind of clear up some land over there in the East, which justified the Feldzug in Poland and so on and so forth.
mm,
So, long story short, Columbus needs to, I think, in today's age, as we know so much more and as we're so much more sort of, um, in a good way, cognizant and sensitive to issues of minorities, I think it's a good time to say, no, Columbus is not somebody who we should celebrate. We should celebrate other people. We should celebrate Native Americans instead of Columbus. Um, and I want to make this very clear. I'm not demonizing your explorers, every explorer of European origin. Um,
mm,
but the times at that time, these people were not, you know, uh, benevolent explorers who explored for the sake of finding new exciting things. They were out there to find markets, to make money, uh, and you make money and you find markets by oftentimes by, well, in this case specifically by enslaving or eradicating entire populations to make the land ready for the desirable population. So let's go to some positive stuff. The culture of Native Americans in America is an incredible rich culture, and their fairy tales are awesome. And just like many other native populations, the fairy tales they exude, uh, you know, I, I should say they employ um, metaphors, rich metaphors, and 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 magical setups, magical actions, and and really, really deep insights. Um, and these things are super important, and they don't expire. This stuff does not expire. These Native American tales. So I prepared today. Let me actually look through the Wikipedia article if there's something amiss. Then we'll go straight to the culture here. No, those are the facts. But so fairy tales are wonderful at any rate, I think. Um, of course, we had a program on fairy tales, and we were joking around that the German fairy tales in particular, the Brothers Grimm stuff that we all know, that often is very I don't know. A lot of them are really. they can be used to sort of keep children in line. It looks to me. The Native American, this is painted with a broad brush, but the Native American fairy tales are much more. I don't know. They're more positive. I think they're more celebrating nature and celebrating the relationship of men with nature, um, and that kind of unity. And they derive sort of this energy from unity with nature, whereby or whereas the German stuff, at least the stuff that I remember, is always maybe it's just because Hansel and Gretel is so dominant. It's always about children getting in harm's way and getting in harm's way because their parents are abandoning them. Of course, there's a lot of other fairy tales too. Some fun. I remember Daisy telling the fairy tale of the porridge, which was fantastic. The pot of porridge that would not stop producing porridge and then basically destroying the entire village because the porridge kept coming out. Uh, and yeah, there's some destruction there, but it's also a very funny story, and it's also a great uh, it has a great moral message about maybe greed. So yeah,
That's somewhat analog to the fairy tale about the Pantau that was also a TV
Pantau.
series with the boy with
Yes.
the golden trousers where
Oh,
there were coming money out of the pockets all the time. But
okay. Tell us.
it turned out they also what the money that he got out of the trousers they would also disappear somewhere in the life in the world in the German world. I think it's going on in Germany.
Okay, tell us about Pantau because Pantau is so fantastic. And a quick anecdote: when I moved to America, I brought I think 30 or 40 boxes with me. They're shipped through Lufthansa cargo, and I had three boxes of my favorite books, and I had a Pantau book from the TV series with stills from the series, and these books are somewhere in storage with my ex-girlfriend. And I actually think because I'm doing a trip to LA in December, I need to contact her. I do actually. I'm friendly with her. We email every once in a while, and I have to. I've never asked her if she still has those books. But tell us, who is Pantau, and yeah, who is Pantau, and how does this story with the money replicating in the trousers? I don't remember that. But who's Pantau?
Maybe I'm mixing it up, but I remember Pantau. He was uh, uh, somewhat similar to Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek looking fella with a
Mm-hmm.
black suit and a bowler hat
Mm-hmm.
and as what do you call it, a can as uh,
Um, a
he was
walking
walking
stick
around with, yeah, walking stick.
or
And
cane,
he
maybe.
was he was always appearing somewhere and helping people and then disappearing again.
Right. He was
Some
always doing
some kind of,
kind things,
yes,
and he was
yes,
always helping the situation, and he never talked. He only used pantomime. Only
yeah, yeah,
he never
that's right.
talked. Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh man,
but I
you
don't
have to make a. We have to make a
remember any
Pantau.
specific episode in the series.
Well, he
Yes,
also was
we,
able to make himself grow very small and regular size human. That was the other
yes,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're right about that.
And this
Yes.
was a co-production between Germany and Czechoslovakia at the time, Czechoslovak television, together with Germany. And Czechoslovakia, of course, now is two countries, but this was an interesting co-production between basically a country behind the Iron Curtain, as it was called in the realm of the Soviet Empire, or in the power nexus, and a Western
Mhm.
German country. And I think I think you conflate two things, Mayaki, because I think
Yeah.
there was another show with the same people, and it was called something with Die Märchenfee oder sowas.
Mhm. Yeah. But I remember this boy who found these old, worn-down trousers, and the
Uh-huh.
parents wanted to throw it away, but he fell in love with it. That secretly kept them, and then he found out that when he reaches down the pocket, there comes a 100 D-Mark or something. I think it was a German production.
Yeah. They were co-production and they used the German money. I'm looking.
Mm.
Uh,
But it was always one
so and then what
one.
was the problem with this? Was there then a problem with the money because it was not valid anymore? He was able to pay and then the money disappeared or something, you said?
Yeah, well, you saw, I think there was a whole season of episodes where we saw what he used the money for and how he helped other people. And then in the next season, they invented that now it turns out all the time the money were actually he invented a machine, a mechanical machine that put some mechanical hand down the pocket and took out as the money, so that because you can only take one settle each time, one piece of money paper each time you reach into the pocket. So he invented this machine that could do it all day long. So that was in the second season, I think. They they started with this, and that's why there's so much money was disappearing. It became obvious to the government that something is going on, and we must examine what it is. Where are all this money disappearing?
Wow.
Because nobody saw it. It just disappeared, like beaming or something like that.
Hmm.
And then they turned up in the pocket of this child. Um,
So the child
yeah.
was not inventing it. Okay, but
No.
you know what? This is interesting. Let's watch before we go to the Native American. I'm glad you brought this up because Pantau is kind of a it's a good example of a modern day. It has the same sentiment of fairy tales in the Western or in the European context, maybe, and it has a magical component where you can see parallels between Native American. I mean, I see parallels. I'm not a scholar, but I see parallels between Native American culture and European culture in this way with stuff like Pantau and the eagle, what we read like the eagle and the mouse and these kind of things. I mean, there's
Yes.
no animals were harmed in Pantau, but okay, hold on. I actually have an interesting issue that has nothing to do with Sansar, but I cannot click in the upper right hand of my monitor anymore.
Mm. That's
Do
strange.
you know what that could be?
Did you haven't solved that problem yet?
No, it's very strange, and
Oh.
I looked around online. I haven't found it, but let's not waste time. I'll keep looking, and I'll ask my genius.
And what happens if you don't mean minimize the window, but normalize the window that it's not maximized?
Yeah, it's just at the upper right-hand corner, the actually the right third of the screen. I can't click it.
Oh,
It
I
does not
don't know.
react.
Mm. And
Yeah.
is it in VR only, or is it
No,
also
it's
in
the
desktop?
screen. It's the screen.
It's the stream. Okay.
This it's the
I don't know.
screen. The
I
screen
don't have any experiences with streaming.
has nothing to do with streaming. It's the screen. I cannot touch the screen. But let's forget about
Ah,
that. Here we go. Here is the Pantau trailer so that people may know what we're talking about. Let's bring the world audio up here. Check this out.
yeah, yeah. His face somehow reminds me of Jean-Luc Picard. His facial expression.
And one more highlight reel, although we're talking about this is a medley. Do we know where Kantau came from? Was this ever revealed?
No, I don't think it was revealed ever. And in the last episode, he disappeared in a strange setting as well.
Oh, that's right. They actually did stop motion animation when he was little.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That was the time then when that was made that way.
That's so fantastic. They don't make stuff like that anymore.
No.
Check it out.
Palieta světová senzace! Napřed David, potom Goliáš a hned zase zpátky z trpaslíka obr.
have to make a Pantau avatar. We have to sign up a Pantau account.
Yeah.
Good. He's luring him in.
Ci stata naleva nebo teplá? Co pak? Nebo se něco při to nestalo? No, určitě, abys mě ji vzal. Tuhle.
Oh, that's how he got Lily. When he was touching the rim of the motorhead.
Yeah.
That's how he was able.
Je to pán Spevák, pán Tal.
Třetí inspektor bezpečnosti leteckého
Oh, this
provozu
actor
Máry.
is in every one of
Přebírám případ. Objevil se od nikud. A zmizel nikam. A tomu mám věřit? Takhle. Padam, padam, pam, pam.
Oh yeah, it was always ending with this.
Well,
He was
because this,
walking down with it.
yeah, this policeman, he went mad because nobody believed him.
Yeah, he was
Remember?
always trying to catch Pantau.
Yeah, and he
Yes.
always said like, "Oh, he's turning small," and people were like, "No, you're crazy."
Dexter, I also found a clip on YouTube about der Junge mit den mit den Goldhosen.
Oh,
It's only 2 minutes.
and is that part of this? But that was not then part of Pantau. That was something else.
No, that was something else. Yes,
Well, let's say hello
I
to
can-
Pacifico. Hold on, one second.
I posted in the chat.
Pacifico, welcome to the Drax Files Book Club. Today we're actually celebrating Native American Day. Oh, this is a recent film. Thank you. I don't want to get into that too much because that's really changing everything. This is just a recent sort of commercial film.
Mm. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's from 2016. So
Oh. So
Uh,
they made a new version?
Pacifico,
Maybe.
we are celebrating Native American Day, which is tomorrow, and I prepared, where is it? I prepared two wonderful things. One, a story, um, called Invisible Warrior, which is from a channel called Stories Before Bedtime, and that's a Native American fairy tale, and I want to watch that first, and then we are looking at an origin story from the Lakotas. And again, Native American Day is celebrated tomorrow in South Dakota. Other states in the United States have different versions of Native American appreciation type days, but Native American Day specifically is celebrated to challenge the hegemony of Columbus Day. Columbus was not a good guy. Columbus was um, a uh, a brutal guy who uh, who justified his brutality by making doing the age-old, like I said earlier, otherizing folks and making them, uh, painting them as subhuman and other things in order to justify economic exploitation. And so, um, what we can do these days is uh, be more conscious of it. We are more conscious of it, and um, we should honor that. I'm sorry, my screen. I'm taking a snapshot, and I cannot switch my screen around. Here we go. Now, um, let's put in the story. Where is it? Stories before bedtime. Invisible warrior. Okay, everybody ready? You have your sound up?
Yes.
And here we go.
This is the story of the Invisible Warrior. Once upon a time, on the shores of a wide bay on the Atlantic coast, dwelt a heroic Indian warrior. He had a very strange and wonderful power in that he could make himself completely invisible. In fact, he often took the liberty to casually mingle every so often, unseen amongst his enemies, and listen in on their plots. He was known amongst the people as Strongwind the Invisible. Now, Strongwind lived with his sister in a tent near the sea. Many maidens would have been oh so glad to marry him, and he was much sought after because of his mighty deeds. And it was known that Strongwind would marry the first maiden who could see him. In order to choose a wife who was pure at heart, the warrior devised a clever trick to test the truthfulness of all who sought to win him. Each evening as the day went down, his sister walked on the beach with any girl who wished to pass the test. Now, his sister could always see him, but no one else could. And as he came home from work in the twilight, his sister, seeing him draw near, would test the latest girl wishing to marry him by asking her if she could see him. And of course, each girl would falsely say that she could. Then his sister would ask, "And with what does he draw his sled?" And sure enough, each girl would openly lie, answering, "Using a great cord, of course." Then his sister would know that they had been lying, for their answers were mere guesses. And although many women had tried to pass the test, all of them had lied about being able to see Strongwind. And so one by one, they all failed, for Strongwind would not marry any who were untruthful. Meanwhile, there lived in the village a great chief who had 3 daughters. Their mother had long been dead. One of the chief's girls was very much younger than the others. She was very beautiful and gentle and well beloved by all. Her older sisters were very jealous of her charms and treated her with intolerable cruelty. They clothed her in rags and cut off her long black hair. They burned her face with coals from the fire, that she might be scarred and disfigured. And once more, they lied to their father, telling him that she herself had done all these things. But the young girl was patient and kept her gentle heart and went gladly about her work. Now, like the other girls, the chief's 2 eldest daughters had also tried to win Strongwind. One evening, as the day went down, they walked on the shore with Strongwind's sister and waited for his coming. Soon he came home from his day's work as usual, drawing his sled, and his sister asked, "Do you see him?" And each one, lying, answered, "Yes." Strong Wind's sister then asked, "Of what is his shoulder strap made?" Guessing again, they said, "Of rawhide?" Then they entered the tent where they hoped to see Strong Wind eating his supper, and when he took off his coat and moccasins, they could see them, but more than these, they saw nothing. And Strong Wind knew that they had lied, and he kept himself from their sight, and they went home dismayed. One day, the chief's youngest daughter, with her rags and her burnt face, resolved to seek Strong Wind herself. She patched her clothes with bark from the trees and put on a few little ornaments, the only ones that she possessed, and went forth to try her luck at seeing the Invisible One, as all the other girls of the village had done before her. Her sisters merely laughed at her, calling her a fool, and as she passed through the village, all the people laughed at her tattered frock and her burnt face. But silently, ignoring the taunts, she went her way. Strong Wind's sister received the little girl kindly, and at twilight she took her to the beach. Soon enough, Strong Wind came home drawing his sled as usual, and his sister asked if she saw him, to which the girl answered, "No." His sister immediately knew that the girl had spoken the truth. After waiting a little while longer, she again asked, "Do you see him now?" To which the girl answered, "Oh yes, and he is very wonderful." Testing her still, the sister asked, "And with what does he draw his sled?" The girl answered, "With the rainbow." And finally, the sister asked, "And of what is his bowstring?" And the girl answered, "His bowstring is the Milky Way." Then Strong Wind's sister knew that because the girl had spoken the truth at first, her brother had made himself visible to her. And she said, "Truly, you have seen him." And she took her home and bathed her, and all the scars disappeared from her face and body, and her hair grew long and black again like the raven's wing. And she gave her fine clothes to wear and many rich ornaments. Then she bade her take the wife's seat in the tent. Soon Strong Wind entered and sat beside her and called her his bride. And the very next day she became his wife, and ever afterwards she helped him to do great deeds. The girl's two elder sisters were very cross, and they wondered greatly at what had taken place. But Strong Wind, who knew of their cruelty, resolved to punish them. Using his great power, he changed them both into aspen trees and rooted them in the earth. It is said that to this day, the leaves of the aspen have always trembled in fear at the approach of Strong Wind, for they are still mindful of his great power and anger caused by their lies and cruelty to their sister long, long ago. The end.
All right. So this is from a YouTube channel. Cut here. This is from a YouTube channel, Stories Before Bedtime, which is pretty cool. Hello, Ned. This is the Drax Files Book Club. Today we're celebrating Native American Day, which is tomorrow. I gave a little introduction about Native American Day of the concept and all that. You can read that on Wikipedia, and we're now watching some. This was a Native American fairy tale, and I have another video prepared. But if Ned or Pacifico, you want to say a few words about maybe fairy tales or Native American tales, if they resonate with you. We had a bunch of shows before. One was I read a story about a mighty eagle. Sorry, the mouse and the eagle, and I love those stories. They are always so sort of centered around the relationship with nature, as opposed to German fairy tales, which is always about the evil stepmother who says "Nein, nein." But
It was a
mother,
very nice video. I liked the artwork. It was beautiful.
yeah, yeah. This is an interesting channel. She's just read. I don't know if that's a young girl that reads these stories. Um, so yeah, we were talking a little bit about the history of Christopher Columbus. I don't want to rehash that. I think it's really important um, to examine the history of colonialism, broadly speaking, of a lot of different uh, nations with fresh eyes. I think we need to look that history straight in the eye, and in order to understand where we are and where we're going. Sometimes you hear an opinion of, yeah, oh, why do you make me feel bad about the past? Obviously, that's baloney. I don't see it that way. I feel we can enjoy life, but we can also look at some of the horrible stuff that was done in the name of progress, or or superiority of any which ethnic group and stuff like that. So that's my personal opinion. If you want to feel good, then why don't you go to Disneyland and go on a roller coaster? Sorry.
Got it.
Life is a little bit more nuanced. I'm sorry. I'm Debbie Downer, Dragster Downer. Um, in the remaining 15 minutes, and Pacifico, if you don't want to use voice, no problem. If you want to chime in, you can chat in the chat box. I'm always interested where people are coming from, how they discovered Sansar, what brought you here, and that kind of stuff. We here at Harvest, we are trying to be a very welcoming community, and we do a lot of events. They're all listed in the events calendar. Tomorrow, I'll say this one more time before closing, but I'll say it now. Tomorrow is huge. Tomorrow, I have a Chinese author who's a superstar in China, author of a sci-fi author. His name is Q Fan Chen. Here's his book Waste Tide. It's about electronic waste. It's a sci-fi thriller. It is super real. It's right here. Um, I just threw it on the ground. Wait, let me throw it into your face. How do I do that again? I'm not in VR today. Here we go. Um, Pick it up and do like this. There you go. Mayeki threw it. And so tomorrow, that's at 10 o'clock. It's at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Is the interview with Qfan Chen. I highly encourage you. This book is awesome. It just came out in English this year. It's been out in China since 2013. It is about electronic waste recycling and the implications. Again, this is sci-fi, but it's also steeped in absolute reality where, you know, thousands and hundreds of thousands of workers recycle, and by recycling, I mean melting plastic with their bare hands with no protection to get precious components of consumer goods out, and um, they're being exploited like any other laborers, but also the environmental impact is enormous. And so this thriller story is sort of steeped in that, in a Chinese island which is called the um, Silicon Island, where this stuff is happening. The imagery is insane. There are prostheses that are being thrown into the trash, shipped from America to China. They still have batteries in them. They crawl around. The water is completely polluted. Like I said, there are workers, there are children who work there, who play there in mountains of garbage. You can actually Google images, you'll see those. And that's where a thriller takes place with an American investor coming in, and it really talks about the relationship of con- the consumption cycle, the consumerism, um, and emerging countries that are trying to be big players, and all the blame goes around. I mean, this book is really not simplistic. It's not like, oh, bad Americans, buying an iPhone 11, 12, 13, and shipping the shit to China, and poor Chinese having to make a living destroying their health and their environment by pleasing Americans. It's not as simple as that. There are cartels and clans who benefit in China from migrant workers who are also Chinese. So it's sort of this cycle of exploitation with different classes, with the ruling class, people who own um, you know, those facilities, and exploiting poor Chinese people coming from small villages trying to make a buck, and then Americans coming in and say, hey, we can clean this all up with modern recycling, um, but they also have an ulterior motive. You know, Uh, they do this in China because some of this recycling is not really tried out, and the regulations in America, blah blah blah. I'm boring you guys because now it sounds like some sort of policy paper. It's not. It's I don't find policy papers boring myself, but anyways, this is a gripping James Bond type thriller with sci-fi. It's near future, and it's super real because it's a real issue that we're all need to be much more conscious of, I think, including myself. Um, I'm still using an iPhone 5. Actually, I do have anyways, blah, blah, blah. Native American Day. Let's watch one thing. Unless, please do speak up and just shut me up if you want to say something. Pacifico said, thank you for highlighting Native American Day, the destruction of their civilization. Thank you, Pacifico. We can always be kind now. People, as we live today, we can be kind. We can do good things. We can be conscious of the stuff. We can inspire others by you know, pushing back a little bit. Who knows? If you have a Columbus Day celebration in school, maybe just gently mention, hey, maybe we should rethink some of these people that we worship so much in the creation of our nation or any other nation. You know, like I always say, part of my family's from Hawaii. It's a long story in Hawaii, of course, of the annexation and colonialism is everywhere. And I'm from Germany myself. I don't have to spell out what we did with Lebensraum im Osten uh, for our superior race. We needed to go all the way over to the east and all this kind of shit. So let's
Drax,
watch. Yes, please go ahead, Ned.
I do have one comment. Have you ever read the book 1491?
Oh boy, I'm looking it up right now. 1491.
It
Tell
was
us about it.
about, well, the book, of course, 1492 was when Columbus did his first journey. So the book 1491 was trying to recreate about Native American history before the Europeans arrived. And
Wow.
that, and it was a fascinating book. But in his foreword, the author made a statement which kind of threw me backwards. He said, in this book, he says, I'm going to refer to the Native peoples as Indians and not Native Americans because in my research, I had to interview hundreds of Indians and I found out that the vast majority of them prefer the term Indians instead of Native Americans. And that was kind of like, whoa. I mean, I was always taught you use Native Americans, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was kind of a surprise to me. And I wonder if that is true. I mean, since he's obviously talked to a lot more Indians than I have, I'm going to assume he wasn't just pulling our chain. But the book is fast. Regardless of that one statement, what you
Yeah.
feel about that, the book is really, really good, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you so much. This really is fascinating. I'm reading real quick here 1491 New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus. In this groundbreaking work of science, history, and archaeology, Charles C. Mann radically alters our understanding of the Americas before the arrival of Columbus, 1492. Contrary to what so many Americans learn in school, the pre-Columbian Indians were not sparsely settled in a pristine wilderness. Rather, there were huge numbers of Indians who actively molded and influenced the land around them. The astonishing Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan had running water, immaculately clean streets, and was larger than any contemporary European city. Mexican cultures created corn in a specialized breeding process that it has been called men's first feat of genetic engineering. Indeed, Indians were not living lightly on the land, but were landscaping, manipulating the world in ways that we're only now beginning to understand. Challenging, surprising, this is a transformative new look at a rich and fascinating world we only thought we knew. Aha! This is really cool. Uh, this sounds fascinating. It's maybe a great companion piece. I'm reading this book by this guy, Hariri right now, which is sort of a bestseller. And I have to look up it's called *Sapiens* in the English. We're reading it in
Oh,
German.
yes, a wonderful book.
A
I've
brief
read
history of
that.
humankind. It's really cool, and his thesis of basically too long don't read. He basically says, I think, or like I'm on page 200 or something, but basically his thing is, um, well, there's multiple things, but one thing is, of course, that he questions is this whole thing that we have that we're so conditioned to just repeat like parrots. Well, that's the price for progress, and he really stipulates, I think, that this is not all progress if progress is defined as sort of an improvement. Like all these different steps from hunter-gatherer to this and this and that is really not progress. Uh, Hold on. Pacifico is saying 1491 will definitely land. Some archaeologists have reported that there were millions more Native Americans that have been reported. Genocide of the Native Americans, intentional or not, was the largest in modern history. Yes. Um, you've read the Hariri book *Sapiens*, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was quite good.
I really I love it. It's it and also, I mean, there is in academia. Not that I interact with academics every day, and I also don't want to sort of stereotype them, but there are some people who are always critical of books that attempt to be readable for the general public and put everything into sort of one book, like the entire history of mankind. Or there was a book by that we have, which I haven't read, about the history of America. God, what was it? What's her name? God, I'm losing it. It just came out. Ah, anyways, but it's a gigantic it's a gigantic task to put this all in one book, and the guy, I think, never claimed that it's like the only book you should read, but it's I think it's important to appeal to the general public with this, and bring it out of the purely academic research circles. And I can see, I'm just saying, like, there's some discussions where people say like, oh, this is
Yeah,
not, there's so much detail is missing. Yeah, nobody claims that there's detail of the history of mankind can be contained in 400 pages, but you got to whet people's appetite for this. So um what was I going to say? We're going to watch this. Oh yeah, here. Uh, Beware of extrapolating conclusions without adequately examining the necessary evidence. Huh? Ah, this was an Amazon review. Um, Now, in closing, hello, Hispano Dotado. We're now going to watch uh, the origin story of the Lakota tribe, read by Elder Dwayne Hollowhorn Bear, and this will conclude our little gathering um, to celebrate Native American Day. Here we go.
Grandchildren today Today I come and I want to share some stories with you so that these stories will never die. These stories are going to be yours, your responsibility to carry on for the next generation. Someday when you're parents, when you are grandparents, you're going to be ensured that your grandchildren, your children know these stories. You know, all ethnic groups around the world have an idea or a belief as to where did everything come from? Where did this world come from? Where did the sun come from? Where did the moon? Where did the trees come from? Where did I come from? And they have a belief of creation or evolution or a combination of the two. But they have some sort of idea where everything came from. Well, as Lakota people, we still talk about our origin story on where everything came from. We talk about an entity we refer to as Ia. Ia was a power, a massive power, very, very powerful that nothing else could exist except for Ia. Ia at a point took a part of itself and began to form this orb, and squeezing tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until what oozed out of it looked like its blue blood, leaving a half hard, brittle body. And Ia called it Makha, earth. Makha existed in total darkness, questioning Ia. What's my purpose? What's my reason for being here? Why am I here? Is there anything else? Ia took other parts of itself and created Apewi, the sun, Hanwewi, the moon, Wichakpi Oyate, the stars, the galaxies, the universe, and put everything in correlation with itself. And time went on. Time went on. But at a point, Makha complained. When I face to Ampewi, it becomes very hot, uncomfortable. And so when I turn and I face to Hanwewi, the moon, it becomes dark and it gets cold. Could you give me a covering? Something to protect myself? Ia, in counsel with the other entities of itself, told Makha, if we give you a covering, you must promise to bring forth life and to nourish it. Makha promised. And so life went on. Life went on for time, a very long time. But at a point, life became ugly, very corrupt, senseless destruction, killing. Makha said, this is not the way that life is intended to be upon me. I must cleanse. Now try to imagine all of these catastrophes happening all at the same time. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, hundreds of them, hundreds of tornadoes. Makha, this one half landmass, shaking and shaking and shaking, shaking so hard that the one half landmass broke apart, separating the peoples into the different continents. And life went on. But at a point again, eons of time later, life again became very corrupt. Very corrupt. Makha said, I must cleanse again. Those of you that are keeping the ways of life as intended to be, come deep down inside me, where I may protect you. Again, these catastrophes. And it came in the form of the Ice Age, changing the surface of the world. When the ice melted back, leaving lakes, bodies of water everywhere. Small lakes, rivers. In this beautiful area today, known as the Black Hills, Chesapa, in the southern Black Hills, we have a trickster in our culture. We call him Iktomi. Iktomi was walking around in the Black Hills. He was wandering around. It was an era of giants, dinosaurs, and bears. Iktomi heard this heavy breathing and took to hiding under the bushes because he thought he was going to be trampled. But he didn't hear the thrashing of trees and shrubs and just a heavy breathing. Now, curiosity always gets the best of Iktomi. So he came out from hiding, listening to that breathing. He followed it, and he came upon this opening in the ground. Peered down into that opening and felt the wind come up, and the wind being drawn back in. He looked down into the opening, and he saw the subterranean species living deep down in that hold, calling down to them. He said, "Come up here, come here." But they were afraid. No, go away, leave us alone. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. Come up here. I want to show you something. One brave young individual says, "I'll go see." And this individual came out, the very first one to come back to the surface of the world. And we call him Tchokahe, which means the very first. Came back to the surface of the world. Iktomi says, "Look about you. Look around you. Look around you. Look how beautiful it is. Feel the warmth of that sun. Isn't that nice? Feel that cool breeze. Here, try some of these chokecherries. Eat some of these plums. Aren't they delicious? Lay down in that soft green grass. That little stream of water, taste that. It's wonderful." And then, why do you want to live deep down in that dark hole when you can come up and you can have all of this? Go get your people. I'm going to go find my friend. We're going to prepare a grand feast for you. Bring your people up here. Tchokahe says, "I will do it." He goes back down into the hole, gathers the people together, and he talks about everything he experienced, how wonderful it was. But an elder is there. An elder says, "Tchokahe, there is danger. You do not know all of the danger that lurks up there." Tchokahe says, "No, I've seen it all. It's wonderful. We must get ready to go." The elder says, "He's being very foolish. I must go ahead and make plans for when danger strikes." And so the old man sneaks away from the group, comes out of the opening, and transforms into the Buffalo Nation. Tchokahe and the rest, they emerge out. And Iktomi is there with his companion, Anugite, the double-faced woman. Very, very beautiful on one side. But she would not let the people see her on this side. She served them, she talked to them, always on one side. Then at a point, after the people had gorged themselves, they ate. They were in the water swimming. They were sleeping in the grass. Sunbathing, you might say. And then Anugita turns, and she shows the ugliness, the hideous side of her. And the people panic. They scream. They run back to the opening. But their bodies had grown because of all the food they had eaten. All of the air that they breathed in, the water, their bodies grew. They couldn't fit back into that opening to go back down. Now Iktomi,
They ate too much.
Iktomi
superstar.
loves to trick people. And when he sees them make a mistake, or he sees them hurt themselves, or When they're in misery, he laughs. He laughs. I did it. I did it. They're trapped on the surface. I did it. I got him. He's rolling on the ground laughing. Buffalo Nation comes forward. Buffalo Nation says, we are here for you. All that we are is for you. We are your food. We're your shelter, your medicine, your tools. And we became known as the Buffalo people, following the buffalo, relying upon the buffalo for everything. And the Buffalo Nation has never let us down. Because as we began to adopt and adapt to living on the surface of the world again, you might say we became a little overbearing, taken more than we needed, taken without respect, taken without giving anything back. The four-leggeds, the winged ones, they cut off communication with us. They says, it's because of these two-leggeds that the world had to cleanse twice. Maybe this would be a better world without these two-leggeds. We should get rid of them. Yes, let's do it. We can do it. We can send into these two-leggeds all of these sicknesses, all of these diseases, and wipe them out, as they were going to proceed to do so. Underneath them, the plant life. The plant life said, it is not up to them to decide who lives or who dies. For every sickness, every illness, they send into the two-leggeds. We have a root, we have a medicine, an herb. And so the balance was kept, and life went on. Life went on for a time again. But again, as two-leggeds, we became overbearing. Again, no respect, no honor. Creations. What are we going to do about these two-leggeds? Oh, Buffalo Nation, Buffalo Nation, you said you would be responsible for these two-leggeds. Look at the way they are. What are you going to do? Buffalo Nation said, we will take care of it. What are you going to do? You cannot go to them the way you are. They're very destructive. They'll kill you. They'll eat you. They consume everything. What are you going to do? Buffalo Nation said, we will take care of it. So at a point in time, they sent to us from the Buffalo Nation the white buffalo calf woman, bringing to us the sacred pipe to remind us that there is to be a spiritual connection of what is on this earth is in the stars. It's in the universe, and what's in the stars is on this earth, and the spiritual connection must be kept. Remember that story. Thank you.
All right. Always about the relationship with nature. And Mayeki has disappeared because the two-leggeds, maybe they shouldn't be here. Why are we still here? I don't know. Exterminate.
Well,
Yeah.
wanted to see it to the end, so
Yeah.
I have to go soon
Yeah.
too. But it was
I,
interesting. I appreciate you putting this all together.
yeah, thank you. I mean, you're welcome. It's really, like I say, I mean, if one person shows up or 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. I'll try to put this on as a place where people know this is a consistent thing that's going to happen, and we discuss the written word in all its forms and celebrate it in this audiovisual dominated world. And tomorrow, if you have time to tune in, it's on YouTube. It's on my channel. This interview with Qfan Chen. Um,
Will it be here in Sansar too?
yeah, there will basically be a watch party. Hold on, I'll cut and paste this link. If you are part of the Discord group of Harvest, I put this into the Discord channel as well. This is a reliable way of I paste this into your private chat. Here we go.
Okay.
This is the event listing, and they're all listed in
Uh,
events. So this will be basically a watch party. I will not be in this instance. I will be in a secret instance, and the problem is these authors are totally up for being uh, live with an audience, and that is definitely my goal. And I'm not, I'm not really that concerned about trolling. I think
Uh huh.
when you talk to an interesting author, the trolls will be so bored that that they will leave. That's
Let
my
us hope.
strategy, right? It's like, hey, oh my God, look at these nerds. They're talking about books. Let's go harass somebody else. Um, I I'm more concerned about it's just not so stable enough. Like we still have some audio degradation around like 30 minutes in. So once that's
Yeah.
figured out, then I want to have you know, uh, audience and then Q&A with the authors, because these authors are very deep thinkers, and especially in sort of the sci-fi realm, the near future people, it's fascinating. We had a Canadian guy on, Carl Schroeder, who is a futurist, and that he makes his living creating future scenarios for various government agencies, and then he takes those and then wraps them into a fictional story and then pushes that out, which is a smart thing. So it's like two birds with one stone. One is a dry, like I said earlier, policy paper. The other one is a compelling narrative. But yeah, Waste Tide is an awesome book. I highly recommend it, but it's in the link there.
Okay.
And the
Well,
cool thing
thank you.
is
And
really, sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that events like this, to me, are where the real value is in Sansar and other VR media. Being able to interact with people all over the world and have discussions like this. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do stuff like this. It's a benefit to folks like me.
Awesome. I'm gonna clip that because I had an interesting discussion. This is something that I think about a lot, and let me actually quit the stream and then just wrap this in a minute. I want to share this with you. So thanks for watching, folks. I'm gonna cut this. Was the Drax Files Book Club. Next week we don't know what we're gonna do yet, but I'll list it tomorrow. Goodbye, and I'm ending.